Hey guys, today I want to go through the world as play. Now, this is quite an important one to me. Play to me is one of the most novel and fascinating human conventions. Although it's not strictly restricted to humans, animals play as well. But the amount that we have to play with, thanks to language, thanks to all our conceptions of reality, the amount that we give ourselves the need to play with. So, guys, listen up, tune in, because I'm going to tie this back to the world as trauma. Because just like the universe, really, there's no separation. Cause and effect is only a means to measure things and draw patterns into what is. And words are best serving us as a narrative, or as with the essence of poetry, which encapsulates emotion and senses as well. So I'd like to start with Freud's notion of play as I understand it. And I'm going to link this to my favorite way of looking at existential angst, which will also dispel a lot of, if you ask me, shitty ways of defining narcissism. We're gonna go into all of it, guys. All of it. You want an instant upgrade to all the words that people throw around, and you're like, I wonder if they know how to use that word, because they're surely restricting me a lot with it. When you have that gut sense of like, is this person using these words right, or are they just kind of trying to put me in a box? And I don't know. I always wonder about that. Go with your gut, I guess. Go with your gut. It might be a projection. That'll be for another podcast. So let's actually get started. So the way I was explained, narcissism kind of is lent to my definition of existential angst. So when we're a baby, yes, guys, this is where it all starts. When we're a baby, we got to look at it from the beginning, guys, or at least the beginning as we can understand it. When we're a baby, let's go into this. Let's go into this because I really like this. I'm going to use this analogy a lot. It'll be reoccurring. Let's go into this. When you're in the womb, and this I kind of believe poetically is where our sense of oneness comes from. Because if you think about it, and this is going to just keep up, I'm going to tie it back. Being in the womb is a bit like probably how it feels like to be a tree. From what we understand, a tree doesn't see, it doesn't hear, doesn't feel in an animal sense of the term. Doesn't smell. I mean, it responds to stimulus. It grows where it can. And I imagine what it feels like to be a tree is to just feel like you're one with everything. Because if you're moving, it's because the wind's blowing you. So there's no separation there between you and the wind. If you're changing what you do with your stores of energy, it's because some insect or other plants or animal wants something from you, is affecting you somehow. But do you recognize these things as a tree? You can't name them. You can't see them. You can't feel them. You just know that some kind of chemical exchange happening in your body, and you start to move and shape and do something differently with your energy. So you and that plant or other animal or other insect are kind of one. That thing is an extended limb of you because it moves and you move. And then again, you get dropped as a seed where you get dropped, and then you grow, determining what nutrients are in the soil right there, and how much exposure you have to sunlight. So again, there's no separation between what the tree can become and if it gets touched by sunlight or not, or what's in the soil. So you're one with the soil and the sunlight. I'm going to relate this back to a baby being in the womb. A baby is one with the mother. It doesn't go out and scavenge for food when it's in the womb. Actually, it's just a bunch of cells until it develops sensory apparatus. So, I mean, do this if you want. I like to. This is the dedicated space cadet part of me. I think this is a great meditation to conceive consciousness coming into reality. And I imagine that, I like to imagine this. I imagine that the development of consciousness from a fertilized egg to a fetus to a baby that's ready to come out probably spans to a great extent the evolution of consciousness through life forms in general, because we started as unicellular organisms and then evolved to ever more complexifying apparatus to interpret the frequencies of energies outside of us, which then the brain turned into vision and sound and touch and odor, etc., etc., depending on what this is like. So you're just energy, maybe, in a cell. Who knows? No, go back to my go to my TikTok or Instagram at Healer Holly and see my bit on why meditate, because when you hone into what it feels like to be any part of your body without focused attention, it feels like there's a party going on in your body because it feels like it's tingling. And I imagine that's what your cells feel like before your conscious mind has bigger things to focus on, because that's the anyway, watch it. I'm not going to go over it here. Watch it, come back. It's a minute long. So eventually, from feeling like energy through colors and sounds and maybe feelings, different temperature, swishing around of the amniotic fluid. Guys, it must feel like a dream. It must feel like you're dreaming. You're hearing words. You must just feel one, like in a dream. When we dream, I read this somewhere. Your whole dreamscape is who you are, because it must be by default. You're asleep, and you're actually, if you look at what the brain does, the parts that store memory are projecting back into the vision apparatus. It's going the opposite way from when you're awake. When you're awake, it goes in and stores, and then all the different levels of your psyche want to do something with that. Ideas, patterns, memories, all that stuff. And when you're sleeping, it plays the opposite way out. So in a dreamscape, you are every part of your dream. You're the dreamer. You're the landscape being created. You're the people in it. Yes, there's a certain level to this that you're connecting with another plane of consciousness. And that's why, remember, guys, I'm trying to use language poetically here, not politically. Don't shoot me down. Just treat this as one long dream. And connects it back to my analogy of being in the womb. As colors and senses birth with the development, with the complexifying of the cells from zygote to fetus to baby. And that's 9 months. Who knows? 9 months of meditated Zen state bliss. might feel like a heartbeat. It might feel like an eternity. Most of us don't remember. And I'm going to get to play. I'm going to get to play soon, but this is a great aside. And then you come out. You come out into the beginning of what's going to be the rest of your life, and that whole 9 months. You don't know what it was, but so baby's first assumptions by necessity is that what they've come out into feels a bit different. There's a couple new aspects, new dimensions to it. Let's use the word dimensions poetically. There's a couple new dimensions to it. Temperature's changed. Oh, light's telling you you're in a way different space with depth. You're not swimming in a fluid anymore. And well, so guys, apparently babies are born hyper narcissistic because of, well, the defining feature of narcissism that's resonated the most with me in terms of actually aiding my psychospiritual discernment of life and what we're growing towards if we're taking care of ourselves is that the baby discerns reality as a complete extension of itself, because those 9 months in the womb, it felt like no separation, like the tree. So that's why if you're good parents, you keep up this illusion. To a certain extent, it's kind of true. The baby gets hungry, a woman's breast starts to, she feels it. I mean, that's incredible. Apparently the million gland, the breast, it wants to give milk when the baby gets hungry, even if you're at a distance. I'm not sure what that distance is, but I heard this and I remember it and it blew my mind. And that apparently fills you with oxytocin and all kind of good feel hormones. Gotta love that baby, guys. Gotta love that baby and let it believe you're an extension of itself. So the baby gets hungry, mom arrives. The baby cries, somebody arrives, mom or dad or caretaker or whoever, shows up to solve whatever it is the baby is uncomfortable with. Or maybe the baby's just figuring out how much crying can do. You know, if your options as a baby are cry, don't cry, laugh, you know, you don't have much tools to figure it all out with. But apparently it's all gotta seem like an extension of the baby, or else if the baby realized how minute and helpless it is in the infinite grandeur of life around it, of time and space around the baby, it would just shit itself constantly. It would just fold in on itself with terror and never unfold into wish fulfillment, which is what our body, or desires, which is ultimately, according to psychiatry, to Freud, what we're kind of compelled towards, what our dreams try and make us wake up feeling safe to move towards. Again, dreams, baby. Let it spiral, guys. Life spirals. Fibonacci sequence. Look that up. You can re-listen to this, find the through line. But I like to take people places. You can listen to this as you go to sleep as a meditation. So, baby's born, world's an extension of itself. And so ushering that baby from babyhood into adulthood is a slow reveal of the fact that it is an independent entity and it depends on other independent entities' choice to show compassion, love, and care towards this baby. I'm getting to the Freud part in play now, and I remember reading this when I was at uni, and it stuck with me. It stuck with me as a staple example. I'm going to share it with you. Hope it serves the same purpose. So when babies first start to encounter dilemmas that kind of challenge the way they figured out reality thus far, I cry, someone shows up, shakes me, picks me up, does something until, oh, I like that. I like that option. Took the fifth cry, took 10 minutes of cry. 10 minutes of cry gets the, I wonder if I could speed that up. The shake me, or hungry and mom shows up. But when baby faces a dilemma that it has to start to reassess reality by what it's thinking of the rules of how this whole simulator works. And crying doesn't solve it. And the example that I read was like when parents leave the baby unattended for a while and it cries and the parents are just not there. Let's say the baby is a toddler age, 2 or 3, in the crib with toys. This was how the example showed it. The baby will create a game. And the example was it'll take one of its toys and throw it out of the crib. And it creates this absurd proof that if eventually it falls asleep or something and the toy makes its way back into the crib, then the baby's actually safe. Then the baby still has control over its external reality because it always wanted that toy to come back into the crib. So it tries to take responsibility or control over a larger challenge, which is, I'm going to take this and throw it. And this is probably why babies go into all sorts of fits. They're testing what they didn't have a choice of coming into, and which they've got to prove themselves works a different way than how us grown adults see the way things work. And this is something we do for a large part of our life. So when we face something, and I remember for me, wow, this was one of my awakenings. This was my awakening. And I feel skeptical about sharing it in a podcast, but it was the first time I was in a relationship with someone who was heavily borderline. And someone using the word love and having, and I guess this is so connected to the core of me at least, and maybe a lot of other people. The way this person defined love was me just being something that gives pleasant stimulus. And in my empathetic head and very Virgonian logic-based head, I couldn't understand that someone could see it in such a way that. But if I'm having a poor time because of what us being together feels like, it's one of us is sacrificing ourselves, and you can't call that love. How is that a union? Anyway, this led me to stay in the relationship way too long, and I imprisoned myself in it because I needed to see that I could affect some kind of control over this thing. Like, I need to see that someone like this couldn't be stuck like this, that I could change the person, and it ended up destroying me. But so anyway, I'm going to fast forward a bit. That's an example of a game, of a pattern that we can get stuck in. And I think, when it's a heavy one that leads you to dark places, that becomes a pattern that you have to find a playful solution to. So that's why when we're in a relationship such as that one was for me, and it let's use the word traumatize, let's introduce it for the first time, traumatizes you, you're going to attract people that remind you of that person. They remind you of that person, whatever their personality is like, or whatever the circumstances seem to be between you. And both of you are going to be helping create this. But I'm going to get to that. Whatever it is that you're attracted to in this person, it's going to be similar to that thing that made it hard to dream of love in that previous relationship. Because our brain works this way. It takes the unknown into the known. And until the unknown has been vetted, our ego comes up with all the ways in which this thing might be similar to something else's that you should be careful of. And it takes a bit of courageous facing to take it into the known as what it truly is, as take our shadow projections off of it, which is kind of our ego trying to tell us, oh, but this feels like this. I think this fucking person's lying, or God, they do things for me only to get the outcomes they want. They're not selfless, or what? These are some that have come up for me, and look how uncomfortable I get talking about it. I still need to shed some light on my shadows. And what you do is you bring that shadow into the light. So you go, no, this is a new person with infinite potentials to be an independent and different person. And so am I. I don't have to go into the same choices that I did with the last person. And sometimes we attract people that we're meant to reject. Our body plays this game for a while. And then you'll reject a person, and this is not the only archetype for this storyline. You'll reject similar seeming people until you're ready to meet someone that inextricably, and somebody once explained this to me as a subconscious conversation. You meet like 10 people who'd be good for you, and they're nice and they're reasonable and they're great people, and you're not and they're even good looking, but you don't know why. You're not attracted to them. There's no spark. And then you meet this person, and you know they're all kinds of wrong for you. You know right away they're all kinds of wrong for you. But God, you can't stop thinking about them. And sometimes you meet that person and you think they're all kinds of wrong for you, but you go through different approaches to moments where you could have been your old self and invite them into the same story that the other person created for you, that they put in for you to have to transmute. But you stay present, you sense your own truth, and these are the ways to do it. But this is not an explanation to the ways to do it. But if you'd like that, you can reach out to me and I'll go through this. And then something starts to happen. The person starts to take down your defenses, not even looking for it. And that's what my friend called the subconscious conversation you're hoping to have with someone. And the reason that you have a part to play in it, coming back to presence, resonating with your true sense of honesty, is to show you that you had the power the whole time to make that situation a lot more what you wanted from it. To give yourself love in that situation, and give yourself love by following what? Your deepest truth, your deepest honesty, which the body is trying to signal us to constantly. So you follow something to the tip of the anxiety, and then you remember to set your boundary. You can go into this at your own behest. Find the ways of communicating that work. Find the ways of communicating that don't work. Find the ways of coming to presence and trusting your intuition and all this stuff. And then you start to go into that subconscious conversation that your trauma story and patterns are trying to lead you to show you the lessons of how you take ownership of your actions in this situation, and how you don't have to fall into it with someone else. And we'll play these games. Our body is this vehicle for calling other people into these dramas. And I like using the word drama because I studied acting, and so this plays into the idea of play. And that's why watching good art is so cathartic. And that's why good script writing makes it hard to judge any of the people in the movie or show, because you see enough of their humanity, or you see enough of their circumstances to understand why they're stuck being the way they are, even if they're not a nice person, but also if they're a really nice person doing things that are not nice. And so, guys, I'm going to go to a story now that and sum it up and tie it up a bit nicely, and lead it to why trauma is an illusion, and why these are ways of our DNA, our psyche, our past lives, our soul, whatever you want to call it. It's a feedback loop of updating ourselves with the new ways we want to play, given our socioeconomic, socio-political, socio-spiritual, socio-psychological environment. Also, just according to the health of our environment, because that plays into us having the right tools. It helps to be healthy, to win the levels of your trauma narratives, and get that one up, get that high score of bringing your shadow into light, and finding what's behind your projections, opening new pathways in the brain, and not being stuck in the ego, and all these different interpretations of it, guys. Poetics. There's this mathematical formula I came across whilst working on the play Proof for a scene study class. And for those who haven't read Proof, it's a love story based around a mathematician or mathematicians, and this guy, he comes to spy on this woman in her father's house, to see if there's some crazy math proofs in this guy's journals after he's lost his mind, because he used to be one of the best mathematicians ever. That's the woman's father. And he finds that there is a proof for this theory, and I was told I need to personalize it. And this theory, anyway, long story short, I had to do some homework for the script, and I stumbled on this theory that stipulated in geometrical space. I know how many people I'm losing for this, so if this part doesn't tickle your fancy, it's not important for the rest. It's an aside. Just fast forward it to like a minute from now, a minute and a half. And I'm still talking maths, then maybe 30 seconds more. Anyway, it was a theory for three-dimensional geometry, stuff that's out of my... But what I remember is that if you randomly apply a vector to any shape of the same force, so stretching that shape outwards, following the contours, like if it's a squiggly shape, always perpendicular to the surface that you're applying the stretch, it to infinity, it always forms a circle. or in three-dimensional space, it always forms a sphere. So guys, that's why I say language should best be looked at poetically, because I believe that in the sphere of thoughts and words, and a notion is spherical. It has a core truth, and it has a lot of consequential equatings, relatings. But I'll do maybe another podcast on linguistics and spirituality, as I understand linguistics and the psyche. So coming back to it, the world is play, and the feedback loop that our DNA, our soul, whatever it is trying to update the best versions of play to suit our current time. And this, for me, became abundantly clear when I went to this tantric retreat. It was a 10-day self-love. I'm not going to divest the secrets of it, but it was with an amazing facilitator, Seth Newman. He's doing some this summer. Highly recommended. Amazing at holding space. He's been doing this a long time, and he's a very wise, learned, practiced facilitator with a large tool set, very accountable, and amazing at guiding people. Amazing at holding space. Amazing, wonderful man. And this isn't the first thing this has happened to me in, the first event this has happened to me in, but when you're in these scenarios where there's a framework and exercises around what I started to feel like is allowing our trauma patterns to play out, but we're all voluntary. We're all voluntary. So you partner up with the people you're meant to, because there's some subconscious conversation that's trying to connect there, and everyone accepts the role they've decided to play for another person in the exercise that's supposed to help them expand, get better, release trauma, whatever it is. I want to not give away what you do in this thing, but I want to talk about my sense of experiencing of it. And I started to feel like if we had, and this isn't the only retreat I've done like this, if we had more frames, exercises, workshops where we take away the survival needs, we take away the real life stakes, that I got to pay my rent, that I got to keep my job, that I got to take care of my kids, that I got to find love and stay protected. But you just go through these things that helped you to accelerate your bringing light to your projections, to understand when you haven't said your truths in moments, to give yourself what you've needed that you didn't get in the past, whatever it might be, to examine yourself greatly, examine your experience, you're relating to death. This is our greatest aspect as human beings, that we can create workshops that are just the advancement of play, and that play is the nature with which we should go through reality to be our most enlightened, most healthy self, most getting out of our way so that our body can do what it wants to do, which is update or get rid of stuff that makes us feel unhealthy in the now context. By just going, you paid for this, and if you just trusted as far as you feel honestly capable of, then we're all going to play through some stuff, and you're going to come out more expansive and more connected to everything else your body's trying to tell you. And they're ingenious, innovative ways, facilitators, experts, body therapists, psychiatrists, shamans, breathwork practitioners. There's a whole host. It's just growing constantly. If you ask me, that's a move in the right direction, because at this point we've mastered the elements, and we have enough technology that, and there's enough of us, like it's hard enough to be human, but in a good way, that this is the stuff that we should be filling our lives with more and more, and molding our society to have as a protocol and a routine more and more, that there would be enough jobs and enough needs for everyone to get paid, so that, because money's it's a good aspect of balance in life. It teaches you a sense of abundance, but that's another podcast or another YouTube video. The universe is play. If we could found most industries, most institutions around this notion of like, what we need to do is get rid of the real life fear and stakes of consequence of thoughts and actions, and just find ways to fluidly play with our body's truths, our body mind connected truths, then, and I'm going to tie it in this way to the trauma, then trauma is just a way to lead us to a society, to what I call heaven on earth. If we do the work on ourselves, where we realize we all have these gifts to make each other feel blissful as hell, and that we should all be living in one big workshop of bliss, going to our jobs, getting blissed out by someone else's. And this is the energy exchange. And then we'd have evolved as a species, in line with our highest intelligence, our highest truths, which is our highest intelligence, because it's everything that we finally know about ourselves. And to tie back to existential angst, because I said I would, existential angst for me is every step closer of accepting how minutely small you are in the face of time and space. But then eventually, and I think this is healing in the sense of wholeness, eventually realizing, just like when you were a baby and you felt like the whole world was an extension of you, that it doesn't matter, because it's always guiding us to a blissful outcome if we trust the movements that what we're born into wants of us. The world, the universe is play. We play with it, it plays with us, but play with the essence of play, sincerity, not seriousness. Real joy and love, not just faking it till you make it. You got to protect yourself enough to find what it is love wants of you. Okay, guys, it might be a bit complex. I'm going to leave it there. If you like this, please subscribe, like the video, comment. I'll be dropping a lot more of these. This is something I want to expand on, and I might do the same formula of using a different title and tying things together, because there's no separation really, guys. There's no cause and effect. It's just poetic license to tools of understanding. I'll explain that, and I'll do a linguistic one next time. Love you guys, and thank you very much. Peace.